Hi there, Mrs. Pyack here, and I am going to show you how to make the almost sourdough bread. So we have our recipe right here. First thing we're going to do is get 2.5 cups of very warm water. Okay, you take your yeast packet, sprinkle it on top, and you take your sugar, and if you have it from the kit, there's probably a little bit more than 2 teaspoons in here. So make sure you measure. You sprinkle 2 teaspoons right on top. You don't even really need to give it a stir, just set it aside. We're gonna wait about 5 minutes until that gets bubbly. Then in your other bowl, you take 4 cups of flour. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to take 2 teaspoons of salt. Again, there's probably a little bit more than 2 teaspoons in your bag. Okay, and then you just give that a quick stir so the salt's incorporated. And as soon as this bubbles, we're gonna mix them together. The yeast mixture is bubbling, so we're gonna add that to our flour and salt here. Just gonna pour it in, making sure to get any that's left over. And we're just gonna mix it in. There's actually a lot of water for the dough. So this is gonna be a really wet dough. In fact, it's gonna kind of feel kind of weird, like it needs more flour. It doesn't, okay? So as you can see, this is, like, you wouldn't want to work with this dough. It seems like it's really wet, almost like a cake batter, like a thick cake batter. So once the water is all incorporated, making sure to get the bottom bits, you might want to use a knife to just scrape the rest of your dough off of your spatula, because all that's going to be bread. You don't want to waste any, because this bread is super good. Okay. So it looks like a really wet, thick batter. And all we're gonna do now, you don't have to knead it. All we do, cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit in a warm place for 2 hours. And then it's gonna be ready to put in loaf tins, raise again, and then bake. Okay, so it's been 2 hours, so we're just about ready to put them in the pans that you have. Now, obviously, when you use the kit, it comes with the 2 loaf pans, but you can use regular, in fact, it's easier if you use regular loaf tins. You can also make them in 1-quart bowls, and those are really interesting. Now, I've already buttered one. Now, I know that it says 1 tablespoon of butter to use to grease it. It's not really about the greasing as much as the flavor. So yes, you do need to grease it, but it does add to the flavor of the bread. Because you might think, like, that's a crazy amount of butter. Yes, it is. But it's gonna taste really good. In fact, my kids, well, only one of my girls actually puts butter on this bread. The other one just eats it right off. And I don't even put butter on because you don't really need it. It's really awesome. So there's that 1 tablespoon of butter on that one. And if your tins kind of got out of line, just kind of push them back in line. Oh, you know, it looks like I missed a spot in this other one. Okay, so now those are ready. I would recommend putting them on a cookie sheet, because that'll make putting them in and out of the oven a lot easier. So now we're ready to take the saran wrap off of our dough. Now, She's gonna zoom in. This looks crazy. You've never seen a dough like this. In fact, it's bubbly. It's really, really soft. And it's starting to smell a little bit like sourdough. Oops, I don't have my spatula. So this is the trickiest part of everything. You're gonna divide this into half. What I like to do is take my spatula and actually kind of make a line through it. Oops, whoops. Okay, that's funny. That has never happened before. Just let it drop. Try to grab the rest of that. The interesting thing is when you make a line, you can kind of actually still see it in the pan. This is the hardest part of the whole thing. Just getting the sloppy, stretchy dough into the pans. But I tell you, it is worth it. This is the best dough. Now you'll see there's some traces of dough in the bowl. You're gonna wanna get every single speck of that out. Why? Because that's all bread and you don't wanna waste it. Also, when you clean this out, if you're using like a sponge, it'll mess your sponge up. So you just want to get all of that good bread into your pan. Okay, so it's really stretchy, almost like slime, really stretchy. Just kind of push it out so it fills up the tin. Now we're gonna place this in a warm place, let it raise for about another 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more, just so that the dough comes up to the top of the tins, okay? And then we'll be back to bake it. Okay, so as you can see, the dough is just above the tin line there. So we're gonna put it in. You don't want it to get any bigger than that, otherwise it'll go over the side. And so this probably took about 45 minutes for it to get this big. And we're gonna go ahead and put it in the oven. Now I preset the oven at 425 and we're gonna bake it at 425 for 15 minutes and then we're gonna reduce the heat. So I'll see you in 15 minutes. Okay, so that was 15 minutes, so I'm gonna reset it to 375. And then I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. I'm gonna check at 15, but it's probably gonna take around 17 or 18. Okay, so it did take 17 minutes until they were done. Now I'm gonna let them cool for a couple of minutes before I turn them out. The good thing about the disposable pans is that once they're cool enough, you can kind of just release the pans this way, just kind of pull them out and the bread will fall right out. Now when you bake them in these, the sides of the loaf are very soft. It's almost like a pillowy bread with a crispy crust on top. If you end up making them later in a regular loaf tin, or some recipes have it done in a bowl, you're gonna get a thicker crust and it's gonna be a crusty bread. It's really cool. I have found that what I often do is I get my 2-quart Pyrex bowls like this and I 1.5 times the batch. So instead of 4 cups of flour, use 6 cups and put everything up by half and then make 2 big bowls of this and it's amazing. Okay, so let it cool for a little bit and then go ahead and cut and eat. And I'll tell you, they won't last very long. Hope you had fun learning how to make it.